Oh dear. As if things couldn't get any worse. Well, stream should be back up now. I'm not gonna be a safety car, Arama, come on. Oh dear. Oh, all that just happened. Now everyone's typing. What on earth's been going on here then? So now we're having a rule of no passing into turn 1 just for health and safety reasons. I just need to get all my camera stuff back up. Get everything working and functioning correctly. Okay, I think that should be everything there. So our apologies for that, but we are now back. This is your commentator, Nuke Shot off Apple. Here on Dynamic Racing Leagues, hopefully going to resume our DRL Super Formula program. Well, we've just had a bit of technical difficulties with the game crashing on me. So as it turns out, whenever there's a crash on track, my game also decides to crash for some reason. My PlayStation just wants to join along with the rest of the guys racing. So it simulates a crash, which, great, fantastic, that's exactly what I need. But anyway, I believe the qualifying order should still be set and such. This will be the third time we're having a start for race 1. Hopefully everything gets through, or everyone gets through safely on this particular occasion. We're just going to test the systems again. Everything seems to be okay on boards. Yep. Everything seems to be going fine. At least for me. I'm not saying oat. I forgot that oat was a word. It's not in the dictionary probably, but that people say it. That's funny. Well, we're finally starting the final again. So hopefully everyone will survive. We're hearing that there's a no passing into turn 1 little thing that's now been agreed upon. So for the third time, King of Torque on pole, Jimmy 2nd, Arama 3rd, Jim 4th, Carbon 5th, Mika 6th, John Wander in 7th, and Roland Jupiter in 8th. There we go, remove the names because that's how Carbon likes it. Red light is on, we'll be going green shortly. Green, 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 and the cars are off. So, again, seems that King just has a solid start in general. And Jimmy trying to go on the outside. Oh, there was a contact with Arama, and that's forced Jimmy to go straight on. But besides that, I think everyone's through clean as possible. Just quickly check Jimmy. Oh, he has got damage. So that's really unfortunate for him. But no insanely insane incidents, as we now have Carbon and Jim fighting out. So Jim up into second from all of this, as there are some more cars moving through the order. That's Brandon getting past both of the Nuco Osso cars, so they've dropped down to 8th and 9th, and that's John Wandering, who's just lost it in the gravel. Now it looks like Arama's going to be catching up to them. Just going to quickly check Arama for damage. They do indeed have damage from that contact with Jim Jam, but I suppose you could count that as like a penalty in itself. Oh, that's really affecting them on the exit of Ascari though. Let's drop them down the order. And now Jimmy is coming under pressure from both of the Alfa Romeos, both of the Hyper Racings, as Jimmy has now come into the pits to get that damage fix, which you can generally run without front aero at Monza because it is quite high speed, but then again you do lose a fair bit of time on the straights, so it's just getting that fixed early on, trying to regroup from there. And Jimmy's actually switched to the medium, so he'll be trying to go to the end of the race on that, which well, he just crossed the white line. That's probably gonna be a post-race penalty for that, as Arama there showing how it's meant to be done and not crossing the white line, then moving to the other side when it's over. But at the moment, it is King of Torque who has a nearly 5-second gap already. Look, everyone's been left behind. You could argue that Jim Jam was probably the only person that close to challenging King on pace. But after that incident, it seems to have not gone his way, as Mika dives down the inside of Carbon, and Carbon's coming back, and there's contact in that ascent. Mika off, and Carbon also having a rejoin from that. We're gonna go to a replay of an onboard. We're gonna see how this happened. So it just looked like the two of them just didn't really give each other overly much room on track in terms of the limits, and that has cost them some time. That's suspension damage for Mika's car. He's using his overtake system. Dynamic Carbon coming into the pits. He's got front aero and suspension. The suspension will just clear it up. Well, it's going out now. Oh, that was a major cut from King of Torque. That's definitely got to be a penalty, that kind of cut. Surely. Well, Jim's also got a bit of a gap down to Roland. So somehow Roland's managed to get up into third through all of this. As that's Brandon in the background, one of the Alfa Romeos. So he just ran a little bit too wide. And indeed, in fairness to a safe rejoin, but that's dropped Brandon down to 6th. Still up from where he was though. Of course he had a qualifying ban, so that would start him at the back of the grid. A bit further up we have GRM Bandit, who is fighting his way into 4th. At this point he's got Mika behind him in 5th. Mika still apologising mid-race for what happened, and now is coming into the pits to repair that damage, no doubt. So things proving very, very difficult here at Monza at this point, but so far some cars that have had a clean time of it all at this third restart have been these guys in the top 4. Bandit, Roland, Jim and King. Of course, King pretty much just gapping the rest of the field at this point, but Bandit is closing in on the hyper racing car of Roland. We're gonna go on board with Bandit and just a little bit of a technical issue there with the keyboard, but it's here. So through the Lesmos, it doesn't look like Roland had the cleanest of exits, but Bandit's just outside of the slipstream range of 7/10 or so. He's going to try and make up that little bit extra time going through Ascari. And in fact, he will certainly make that up because Roland has really not taken advantage of that. And on the straight, it looks like he's going for the pass. So he's got the outside line, so Roland fairly defending the inside at this point. They're still side by side. Bandit's going to try and hang it around the outside of him. And they're still side by side as they make their way up to the start-finish line. No doubt probably using a little bit of their overtake mode at this point, or perhaps conserving it. Difficult to tell. They're still side by side going into the chicane. Oh, this could go so badly. But these guys showing each other a very good amount of racing room and respect. But Bandit has just managed to get on the power a little bit too eagerly and span up the wheels, and that's dropped him back down. And now he's not going to have the pace going through Curva Grande. You can see the tents just building up to Roland. As I think that was Jimmy going for an overtake on John Wandering. We'll see if we can catch that. So it just looked like they had a little bit of a better run going through the first chicane. That just allowed Jimmy to get past relatively fine and unchallenged in that sense. He's still got John Wanderer for company though in 7. And in fact there's another overtake. That's someone going off. That's Mika going off. What happened here? You see the cars getting airborne as they just clipped that second chicane for stopper. Oh, and it just looked like he got the power too early and just ran it wide. Really unfortunate stuff for the Flying Dutchman. That's dropped him down to 10. However, he is on mediums now, and assuming he started on softs, that would mean that he'll be going to the end, or trying to at least, which is probably the faster strategy when you do have to pit for damage like he did. King of Torque now with a 7.1 second gap, and seems to be behaving himself a fair bit better through the second chicane of or compared to how he was earlier. Oh, this is going to be confusing. The two Jims, Jim 387 and Jim Jam, both in yellow cars. This is a fantastic nightmare for me. They're both British as well. Fantastic. Well, Jim actually making up a little bit of time now. The gap's just come down to around 7 seconds exactly. Just going up a little bit, as King seems to have had a bit of a better run through Ascari compared, but still that's 11.5 seconds down to Roland, who is third. So Roland actually doing a very solid job for the Hyper Racing crew. Seems to be keeping it clean. GRM Band is still hot on his heels, but there's a second gap, but he has managed to get that gap down compared to what it was before, so Bandit's on a charge here. We'll just stay with them as they break for the chicane. That's Jimmy, who started the race on the mediums, I believe. Now switching to the softs. Brandon following him in. Will be switching to the mediums. I would at least think so. Unless he had damage. Oh, he did have damage actually. So Brandon also getting that repaired, but he indeed does go on to the mediums. And Jimmy just about managed to get out ahead of Spinning Boy Mika. We'll see if we can get a replay of the rejoin. Indeed. There you can see Mika coming up. not quite close enough to make a move going into the chicane, but close up, and will probably be in the slipstream or such of Jimmy. A bit further up the order again. Bandit, the gap's just gone up a little bit. In fact, Carbon has just made an overtake on John Wandering. Looked like there was a bit of contact. Oh! And that could have so very nearly gone wrong for Carbon. They can see how it's done. Both of them using overtake mode in order to try and outdo the other, but it just seemed like Carbon had a bit of a better run out of Lesmo 2 that allowed him to have the edge going into Ascari. But Arama now actually got up into there as well. So did John Wandering pick up damage from that? He did indeed, so perhaps there was a bit of contact going through Ascari. It looked like there might have been, but I didn't know for certain. But now Carbon going for the mediums. John Wandering will probably be doing the same. He comes out ahead of Brandon, only just. Oh, but he overshoots it. It's going to allow him, Brandon, to perhaps get a run. It looked like there was a bit of contact, but luckily no damage. Again. So a lot of cars having a pit earlier than expected because of picking up damage. Brandon very late on the brakes. And nowhere really to go on that occasion. And he has picked up front aero damage from that. So again, it just seems to be a thing with Brandon. He's extremely late on the brakes. That seemed to be of what people have been saying was causing the red flags earlier in this particular one. Now he's trying to make a move going into Ascari. John Wandering just has to submit to that, I suppose. Or does John have damage from that? Okay, John Wandering's car is fine. It's just Brandon that picked up the damage from that particular one. Brandon goes a little bit defensive into Parabolica, as in fact there's a battle for third place. That's Roland and the Jim. In fact, that's a battle for second. In fact, so there's contact between the two of them, and that has really left Roland's car a bit worse for wear, it seems. So we're going to check to see if they picked up damage at a certain point. So again, it looked like he just outbroke himself when he was on the inside, so it was collateral. So Jim's car avoiding damage on that occasion. So the Alphas, or the Hyper Racing car, again, it's going to get really confusing because of the branding, seems to be quite fragile as well, at least not affecting other cars at this particular point. Rolling down there at this point. Bandit falling into the clutches of Arama a little bit. What's happened to Arama? Arama's gone off. As soon as I mention it, Arama makes a mistake. As Roland also goes into the pit, so they just lost the car, which is so easy to do on the stock setup. How on earth did they avoid damage? That has completely baffled me. Well, we're at the halfway point just about of the race, so anyone that hasn't pit would normally do so around this point, the halfway mark in the race. Of course, our race leader, King of Torque, now with a 23-second gap because of all the kerfuffling that was going on behind him. In fact, GRM Bandit has managed to get up into third because of what Roland's happening. In fact, Roland trying to defend his position from Jimmy. Oh, kick of oversteer, and that's allowing Jimmy to go by and using the overtake quite successfully. So a relatively simple one for Jim Jam, and indeed as soon as I mention the regular scheduled pit stops, our race leader King of Torque comes in. So everyone else, because of their incidents and such, will be having a bit of an undercut from pinning early, but King of Talk has spent a fair bit more time on their mediums than a lot of other guys. Where do they rejoin? They rejoin with around a 12-second gap or so. Or actually no, it's closer to 9 seconds to Jim. So Jim definitely keeping himself in contention in case King does make a mistake. Bandit for the 14 seconds, nearly 15 seconds back, but a fantastic job from the American, currently holding 3rd position. Jimmy still just trying to gap Roland at this point. He currently sits 4th with Roland in 5th. Arama, who somehow managed to avoid damage, is currently in 6th, and I believe there's a battle going on for 7th between Carbon and Mika. So these two exchanging positions a little bit. They're making their way down towards chicane 2. It looks like Mika has a little bit of an edge on pace at this particular point. Of course, the dirty air will be affecting Carbon. Just see if we can get a little bit of a replay to see what antics are happening here. So Mika's actually ahead at this point anyway. I was just checking to make sure. Oh, there's also a contact between the two. Yeah, Mika breaking the slipstream quite effectively, and has now managed to get out of the 7/10 range, bringing that up to 8. Oh, but the BMW seems to have some pace through Ascari, and is now well within that slipstream range. Now going to go on board with Dynamic Carbon. Is he going to be close enough to have a bit of a run going on to the straight? We'll have to see. Coming through Parabolica and onto the straight now. Is around 4/10 behind. And at the moment not able to do anything. It looks like he's just saving a bit of his overtake as Mika's using a bit of his. Well on the power. I'll say that a lot of people have been finding the exit of chicane 1 a very tricky place to put down the power. So it just looked like it's getting a bit close here for the 5th between Arama and Jimmy. Also a bit further down. Who? Alright, I'm just trying to see if there's... Is that someone being lapped, or... It seems like someone's dropping down the order. Oh, in fact it was Mika being overtaken by Carbon. So... Let's see if we can catch this. No, we can't, unfortunately. My apologies for missing that, but Mika must have made a mistake. I'm going to assume running into the gravel of the Lesmos again. We saw them make that mistake before, so not too far-fetched to assume it would have happened again. We're now going on board with RBZ Arama in the Cosworth-powered Nuke Shop car. New helmet for the Dutchman here today. And he's getting very close as they come through Curva Grande to the back of that hyper racing machine of Roland. Getting safely on the brakes soon. Oh, Roland's car very slow through there, and there was contact, more contact. Is that damage? It is indeed damage for RBZ's car, but can Roland really be at fault necessarily for just being slower than Arama through the chicane? Is the thing. That might be Roland pushing for all we know. very difficult to tell. But now, with the damage, Arama's definitely going to have their top speed affected, and that is something you really don't want here at Monza. It's also affecting him in the corners. You can see him just running wide through Parabolica. He's back in the slipstream of Roland again. So Roland also with the aero damage, the rear aero damage, so that would affect their rear stability, so they're more likely to spin it, as that's a very optimistic chance from Arama, but manages to get it done. So the first chicane we've seen a very awkward place for trying to pass and such, but now it's Roland trying to fight back, gets alongside through Curva Grande, and indeed does retake that position. Arama, there you could actually see them get on the brakes a little bit mid-chicane. As a bit further back, we have a battle for 7th. That's Mika going back past Carbon, actually. So these two having a bit of a ding-dong scrap. So Carbon really not seeming to have the pace if Mika was able to drop back and then catch back up again. And this kind of quickness. And as soon as I say that, Mika makes another mistake. So he's gonna drop back a little bit again. Oh, his car's getting really beat up. It didn't look like there was contact between the two. I might be mistaken, but oh, it's so difficult to tell. This race has really been a grueling one, as Arama is starting to get Roland. So Roland no longer in that slipstream range. It is still King of Torque leading this one. The gap actually between him and Jim coming down significantly, and yet King is not damaged, and that's Mika going into the pits. You can see on the graphic. Might switch back to the softs now that he's done that. Wouldn't surprise me. He has used the medium tyre at that point. Indeed, he does switch back to the softs. But Jim has really been impressing. Has somehow managed to get down the gap to 4.2 seconds. It was around 7 a point earlier in the race. And again, seeming to have the pace advantage over King of Torque. They currently hold the fastest lap of the race, which is a fantastic 1:29.928. So faster than anything we saw in qualifying. As it, I think we've just had a retirement, have we? Indeed, it seems that Dynamic Carbon has retired from the race. From something, it would seem. You probably hear a bit about that afterwards, or if he is in the chat, of course. Please, it would be of my best interest at least to know what's happening. But the gap is coming down between two guys at the top. They can see him in the background, Jim, trying to catch up to this guy, King of Torque. So perhaps Torque just having a little bit of tyre wear issues or something. Who knows? Well, they're coming up to lap traffic. I believe that's John Wandering in the Nuco Osso machine there. Indeed it is. They're currently receiving blue flags. Just seeing, is there any other battling going down on track at the moment? So Mika's gap Brandon, and Arama. Actually, Roland might be catching Arama. No, we saw earlier that Arama was pulling a gap, and that was a Roland really getting it wrong. See this again. So, yep, just clipping that green concrete, it seemed, and just sent him slide McGeeing off the exit of Lesmo 2. They didn't pick up any extra damage from that, but they still have the rear aero damage from earlier. Jim Jam currently in 4th. After starting on the front row of the grid, he'll be kicking himself after all of this. Although he is currently purple in Sector 1, so it really just shows his pace. That through Sector 1 he'll be on track to match, if not better, Jim's 129.9. Roland is in the pits, meanwhile. So Roland rejoins just ahead of Mika. Well, that would be a gap to monitor, it would seem. That might be the closest one on track. Brandon, you're in the chat. Please tell us exactly what happened. Brandon being Dynamic Carbon, of course. So, Mika definitely catching up to the back of Roland. Going on board with him. The Flying Dutchman. Definitely within that slipstream range at this stage. So he's suffered a lot of adversities and such, but now starting to make his way. And again, you can see the speed difference between the hyper racing car of Roland and the car of the nuke shot car of Mika. Again, Roland just trying to... Oh, there's more contact between these two, as Mika just dived down the inside on that one. Roland also seems to be squeezing him a little bit. And now it's Roland going back through into the chicane. Oh, again, more contact. And that's Mika spinning off, and he's been reset. And that's him out. So he's just retired from the race. Jim somehow got ahead of King of Talk. What on earth happened here? How have I missed this? Has King of Talk been in the pits again? What on earth? I have no idea what on earth's happening anymore. But somehow King of Talk has dropped back behind Jim. Must have been an absolutely catastrophic mistake for that to happen, but... And of course, not disrespecting Jim, but for him to lose so much time. I must have just, like, lost all sense of grip going head on. No idea what on earth happened there, but now Bandit's actually gaining him on him in the straight. Of course, that'll be because King has that downforce damage that I picked up. So Bandit could be on target for getting second place here. So it's actually been an alright race for Bandit, all things considered. Haven't really, to my knowledge at least, picked up damage at all throughout this one. So very consistent performance. That was someone, again, cutting the white line, was it? Who was that? Was that John Wandering just coming out of the pits? Oh, no, it wasn't. It was... Who on earth was that? It was a white and blue car. It wouldn't have been King, would it? If it was King, then he wouldn't have come out the pits, so... that theory goes out the window. So John Wandering's just come across the line. In fact, that would be... Oh, as we're having a position change, that's King of Talk off again. What on earth happened here? So, King of Talk and GRM Bandit going round, and it was at Lesmo 2, was it? Oh, so there's contact between the two of them there, and that sent King of Talk into the gravel. But it is BRT Jim that's took the race win here today. It's been an absolutely chaotic one, and no doubt there'll be penalties that will completely shift up the results from this, but it's GRM Bandit that's managed to get second, at least on the road. Yet see if we might get a penalty or something after what happened with this guy, King of Talk. These incidents will definitely be under review. It's going to be a very long night for the stewards, long week for the stewards probably, but it is this guy, Jim, on the top step of the podium yet again. Very consistent drive from him, and it certainly paid off at this absolutely chaotic Monza. So congratulations to him. I've saved the replay data, there we go. Yeah, I have the replay. Don't worry, Carbon. Oh, what on earth even was that? I'm not gonna lie, that was closer to a random race commentary than it was a league race, but it certainly made for some action-packed moments, I suppose. Okay, we'll be getting race 2 underway as soon as everything quiets down. Hopefully, we'll have to see. It'll be a reverse grid. I'll quickly go over all of this. So it's the top 8 that will be reversed from the race 1 results. But through all of that, it was Jim who took the win by 15 seconds from GRM Bandit. It really won't surprise me if Bandit gets a penalty for that overtake in Lesmo 2. All these things will probably be under review anyway. So King of Talk on the road came 3rd, Jimmy 4th, Arama 5th, Roland 6th, Brandon 7th, John Wonder in 8th, and Meek and Carbon DNFs in this one, just not putting up with this kind of tomfoolery, which is understandable. Oh, Roland's just gone. As I said before, this this broadcast is not brought to you by Pepsi Max Cherry, but it's nice. As simple as that. Oh, now we're having a complete reverse grid based on previous results. We'll just go onto the track, see if anything's happening at this point. I believe everyone for race 2 has to start on mediums, is the rules. So, just John Wondering needs to change that. Also, we're hearing from King that he got damaged because he thought John would move with the blue flags, but he didn't. So he ended up running into the back of him. So that's really unfortunate when you're having issues with traffic like that. Of course, there is no mandatory pit stop for this one, but everyone's required to start on the medium, so the pit stop is optional, as Carbon mentions in the lobby chat. Again, you're listening in to Dynamic Racing Leagues, not part of the Radio Show Limited network of channels. I am your commentator, Supreme Overlord Radish, and we are hoping to get race 2 here of DRL Super Formula Round 2 underway here at Monza. Again, fantastic weather we've been having pretty much throughout the practice sessions and such here. Weather's been very kind to us. Still no chance of rain. Hopefully Kazunori and the team will fix that eventually. But still, at the moment, we're enjoying the sunshine and the heat. As are the drivers, as it allows their tyres to warm up a little bit better. So we've got Arama and GRM Bandit currently on track. They're currently being blocked by what appears to be an access road point from our camera view. Oh, there's Brandon. Hi, Brandon. So indeed, they're just doing burnouts at this point. Jimmy, yep, no luck for Jim Jam in this one just yet. Of all 3 starts that we've had because of the red flags and such, every single one seemed to cause damage to him. I don't recall anyone picking up engine damage, so that's a positive, I suppose. So of course it will be a reverse grid for this one. So let's just see where that would actually put everyone. So Jim would be at the back, so Carbon would technically, from being a DNF, start on the front row alongside Mika. So now it looks like, by that call from race control, that we are getting the second race here underway. So as I mentioned, everyone starts on the mediums. The tyre pit stop is optional, unlike race 1 where it's mandatory. So of course, switching to the softs can definitely be of a benefit. Another difference between this to race 1, the points, you can score a maximum of 15 in this one, and it lasts 20 minutes instead of 30. Hence the lower point scoring. I like how there's a no smoking sign on that wall, and yet internal combustion engines run here pretty much all the time. But I assume it's just because like fuel and such ignites and such. That's generally how fuel works, as Brandon pulls out of the pits. So, race 2 at last, about to get here. Underway here at Monza. It is going to be Mika on pole and Dynamic Carbon in last, so I would have thought Carbon would have Oh wait, no, because it's the top 8, if I recall. So anyway, we're about to get things underway here at Monza. Red light is on, we're about to go green shortly. Green, green, green. And the cars are off. Everyone really slow off the line, it seems. And that's Brandon really struggling to put the power down, just sliding about. Oh no, we are not going 4 wide into turn 1. What on earth? Please no. Please no. Oh, Mika's dropped down the order. There's a bit of contact with one of the hyper racing cars who span off. That would be... Well, who would that be? That's Brandon. So Brandon's not had that good of a start, but someone who has had a good start is Arama and King of Torque. Look at this, going through chicane 2. And they're still side by side. In fact, Arama on the outside had a better exit and using the overtake as well. Manages to hold on to that first place. So while one of the nuke shot Cosworth machines had a little bit of a poor getaway, and indeed they take a trip through the gravel but managed to get back on track without spinning. The other one, anyway, of Arama seems to have had a fantastic start, and it doesn't look like King's going to be able to challenge through Ascari. Although King is looking extremely close, surely the slipstream's going to do something. Arama defends to the inside line. King's just got his nose in front, but Arama will have the inside line through Parabolica, and indeed, it doesn't look like the car of King will be able to do much except get a cutback. So fantastic racecraft from King, but that's just allowing Arama to get into the slipstream. And alongside yet again, there's literally nothing in it as they come down lap 2 into chicane 1 yet again. Oh, Arama just about had the nose in. King just about manages to touch the gravel there, and now it's coming under pressure from Jim Jam. So Jim Jam's having a much better race of it this time. So he's managing to get up into 3rd. And he's definitely going to be putting pressure onto these guys in front. Meanwhile, a bit further back, you can see that's John Wandering and Dynamic Carbon having a bit of a scrap. That's Carbon going through. John Wandering running a little bit wide. Oh, and that's Mika. Mika again just overcooking it. Seems to have really just lost his focus after what happened in race 1. Just really struggling. Oh, and Arama's just ran wide out of Ascari, and that's really just allowed King to have a free pass. And that's allowing these 3 to bunch up yet again. So they make their way through Parabolica now. Arama suffering from a bit of dirty air. Jimmy also looking to come into this. It looks like Jimmy's going to the inside of Arama. A little bit of contact. We're going on board with Jimmy, getting this kind of perspective. Dynamic Carbon's into the pits, so perhaps just switching to the softs. Oh, bit of oversteer, and indeed Jimmy also. And now he's ran over a cone, or 2, or 3. And now he's just lost that bit of a gap that he had in fact falling into the clutches of Bandit now. So Bandit going to what will be the inside for chicane 2. They give each other the room, and Bandit gets through. So Jimmy doesn't have damage or anything. These guys are on the same tyres, so credit to Bandit for that. That was a fantastic one. Bandit's really coming into his own here at Monza with that 2nd place still subject to penalties, of course, in the last race. And now up into 3rd. And Arama is losing touch with King just a little bit, but using the overtake mode to just try and ease his way back into that slipstream range. That's all he needs to do, and then get off the overtake and let the slipstream be a natural overtake system. In a way, of course, with it being 20 minutes, you have less time to use your overtake system, so you can use it more. So Arama coming down, and Bandit being challenged by Jimmy as well. Jimmy looking to the inside as John Wandering also goes for the pits to switch onto soft tyres. Gonna have to try that strategy out now. Oh, solid on the power. There's a slight twitch, but nothing too major from Bandit. But Jimmy has managed to get ahead. Meanwhile, in the battle for the lead, King definitely being under a bit of pressure from Arama, going on board with the rear wing cam of King of Torque's car. You see Arama just able to put the pressure on, use as much cover as they like. Meanwhile King, oh, and King's got it wrong! King's got it all wrong! Has managed to avoid the wall, but has dropped back. So really not used to this stock setup. As I mentioned, I believe this is one of his, if not his first race for points in this championship. Well, of course he had the last one, but first round I should say. And that's allowing Jimmy to catch back up to him. And Bandit's not that far back from them either. So the sort of group of fours managing to get away from everyone else. As King is trying to hang it around the outside, but Jimmy trying to stay with him. Jimmy doing a very good job to just stick with it. And we'll be lining something up, just trying to use the slipstream. King going a bit defensive and cuts back to the outside. And Arama starting to get away from these guys as they start battling. The gap now just up to around 2 seconds. You've got to think, if these guys want to stay in contention to win, that they have to start working together. Perhaps that is what Jimmy's doing, just by staying behind. Oh, late dive bomb. Does he get that to work? He gets it stopped. Oh, but there's contact with Bandit, as Jimmy was going very slow indeed through the midpoint because of that late braking, it seemed. Does he have damage? Indeed he does. So that's extremely unfortunate. What is it with Jimmy and getting damage here? No luck at all for Jimmy here today at Monza. GRM Bandit, did he pick up something? Indeed he did. So these two will no doubt be dropping back into the clutches of the likes of Brandon. Oh, but King's had an absolutely shocking exit of Ascari. And in fact, Jimmy and Bandit are side by side yet again. Jimmy trying to go around the outside. And he gets that to work quite nicely as Bandit's running wide, and as is King. Well, Jimmy's getting a little bit of gap, but King, meanwhile, indeed just managing to get up alongside and safely brakes before Bandit does. And that's an alpha, it's some, what they call a hyper racing car. That's Brandon, who's just got that braking all wrong and took out one of the concrete bollards. Well, no doubt that's damage for them. John Wandering's into the pits. Meanwhile, they already made their tyre swap, so that's damage related. As that's King of Torque who got that chicane wrong. Avoided damage. It looked like they hit a bollard, but now they're falling into the clutches of Brandon and indeed Jim at this point. Brandon goes down the inside. The King was squeezed off the track. That was similar to what happened between King and Bandit in the last race, on the last lap. Brandon apologizing. Okay, so we're about halfway through this one. Brandon looking to catch up to Jim. Jim's actually done a good job of getting back up to 4th at this stage. Now trying to close down Bandit. Jim has really come into his own in this series, it has to be said. And indeed, I do believe it was just the top 8 that was reversed, and John Wandering just saw that in the chat, and that would explain why Carbon started at the back of the grid, meanwhile Mika started at the front, despite both of them being DNF and such. We are exactly at the halfway point of the race. And Jim is really putting on the pressure to GRM. Bandit is looking to try and set him up, hopefully to not knock him down. Bandit just running a little bit wide, drops off the track, and that allows Jim to very easily get past Mika. Having to go and sleep now, just try and relax his mind. I don't blame you after what's been happening today. It's been absolute chaos. But Jim now promoted up into 3rd place and is still within contention of getting the win. He's only around 8 seconds back from this guy who's leading the race, RBZ Arama, who's broken a fair bit of a gap to Jimmy of around 6.5 seconds. Again, using that overtake on the straights, might as well just keep that gap stabilized. Don't want Jimmy to get anywhere near that juicy slipstream of yours. So meanwhile, Jimmy is starting to come under pressure from Jim, it would seem. Of course, Jimmy has rear aero damage. It also seems according to the graphics. So Jim, who doesn't have damage, I believe. Indeed, that is the case. And woof, that's Jim just going straight on, coming into a bollard. Somehow avoided damage from that. What on earth? And so he got reset from that. Jim got reset, and that's dropped him back down into 4th. And now he's coming under pressure from King of Torque again. So if you do end up running too far, like cutting the chicanes and such here, the game does automatically reset you regardless of the corner cut penalties or whatever. So that's really unfortunate for Jim. He's now around 13 seconds back and in a fair bit of a scrap now with King of Torque. King using the overtake mode and the slipstream he's getting from Bandit. But Jim just about managing to hold on for now through on the insideline.com. Everything super formula on this occasion. These guys might be going 3 wide into turn 1. Indeed, they're 3 wide going on the straight. Look at this. So Bandit doing the safe thing and just opting to stay out of this scrap, hoping they mess up. Now Bandit trying to follow through, and in fact that's the alpha, the hyper racing again of Brandon trying to come into the mix as well. So we've got a group of 4, nearly going to be 5 with Dynamic Carbon catching up as well. And they're all fighting it out. So Jim was definitely the biggest loser through the last couple of laps then, with that chicane cut resetting him. And now he's just, yeah, he's lost his focus. As Jimmy's taken out the braking boards, that's going to be a treat for everyone else. Of course, not his fault, but it has indeed happened. So Jim now being overtaken by Carbon. He has got damage now, his front aero and front right suspension. So that explains also why he's dropping back and suffering a fair bit in the corners now. The car getting very unpredictable to drive. A bit further up, King of Torque has worked his way back up into 3rd, so he's certainly coming along. In fact, Jim currently holds the best lap of this race, which is a 1:29.782, absolutely smashing the qualifying times that we saw earlier today, even the fastest top of the last race. So Jim again just showing how much pace he's been having. Perhaps not the same amount of luck. So Bandit trying to get back past Brandon. Brandon's had a little bit of a run actually. overtaking a few different people on the last couple of laps. So he's been doing alright. He's forming a little bit of a train now, so Bandit will have to watch his back as well as what's ahead. Oh, and he just runs wide into the gravel. That drops him back down to 7th. That's how close these guys are. Oh, could have nearly got it wrong, but he managed to hold on to it. So now Dynamic Carbon will be looking to have a bit of a run on the hyper racing machine of Brandon. The two Brandons going at it. Going to go on board with the BMW Dynamic Esports machine. Again, just within that slipstream range. Only around 4 minutes or so left on the clock. That's approximately 3 or 4 laps, depending on where the race leader comes out. So Brandon smartly going to the defensive line, as well as breaking the slipstream to stop Carbon having a run. That's good racecraft there. And again, just seemed a bit slow to get on the power, does Brandon. That seemed to be a theme of the hyper racing machines. Perhaps it is their Honda power plant that isn't particularly effective in that sort of acceleration zone. GP2 engine, as Fernando Alonso once said. Again, looking for a cutback, but oh, very slidey from Brandon as he made his way out of Lesmo 1. Through Lesmo 2, there's nowhere that that Carbon could go, so I ended up going into the back of him. And it doesn't look like we'll have much of a run unless he outbrakes him going into a Ascari. Indeed, he doesn't outbrake him. He stays just slotted in, trying to get a bit of a run down towards Parabolica. Does indeed have that run. And then now alongside, John Wondering again coming into the pits. So just picking up damage yet again, it would seem, at least for the young American. I don't actually know any of the drivers' ages besides my own, but I'm not a driver anymore. But Carbon and Brandon start side by side actually on the run down to turn 1. Brandon switches lanes behind Carbon, trying to go around the outside, which will switch to the inside, but Carbon manages to defend, and that's actually allowed Jim to be very optimistic and try and get his nose just on the inside of Brandon. Hasn't worked, but looking for these opportunities. A bit further up the order, we've got King of Talk and Jimmy fighting it out as Arama has checked out at this point. Approximately 9 seconds up the road from these guys. Jimmy really piling on that pressure, not quite in that slipstream range again, but King of Talk doing a very good job to ride his way back up through the field like a phoenix in this one. Oh, a bit slow through Ascari from the Dynamic Esports machine. It's allowing Jimmy to go alongside. Backs out of it, tries to look for the inside, but doesn't work out on this occasion. A bit further back, Brandon's still having to defend from the likes of Jim. The only thing that Jim will have a bit of a run on this occasion, but the other Jimmy just slotting in for now. We'll go back to this as Jim on the inside, but Brandon brakes quite late, but Jim just about manages to slot through. So good defense, but not good enough on this occasion to prevent Jim from getting through. But that was fair racing between the two of them for that, as Brandon, just getting very desperate now, and has just majorly got that chicane wrong. As there's blue flags being waved, I believe that's John Wandering who's had an absolute nightmare of a round today. With the constant pit stops it seems for him. GRM Bandit, the next one to try and overtake Brandon. Oh! Was that a bit of onion barges? We'll see if we can get an onboard of that with these two side by side. As Arama has just taken the win. Meanwhile, so congratulations to them. We're going to quickly see it is indeed King of Talks that takes second, Jimmy third. It'll be Carbon taking fourth. Fifth will go the way of Jim. Brandon running a little bit wide, but we'll come on sixth. Bandit 7th and John Wandering in 8th. So there's your finishing order for race 2. Congratulations to Arama, who again just managed to stay out of trouble and rise his way through the ranks and gap the rest of the field. Once you break that slipstream range and the other cars stop battling behind you, then it is just a case of maintaining the gap, and that was a fantastic drive from Arama, it has to be said. So all credit to them for that one. So we're hearing from John Wandering they actually just got close to the wall and picked up damage. So if there wasn't even contact with the wall, if that's what it sounds like, then that's really odd. Was it? Of course, the hitbox is a bit odd on some cars, particularly open wheelers, but still. Anyway, Arama for the Nuke Shot Carlsworth squad manages to take the win on this occasion from King of Talk of Dynamic Esports, then TSR Jimmy, Jim Jam, of course, racing for TSR, and then Dynamic Carbon 4th for Dynamic Esports. Jim ends up 5th for Raven West. Brandon for, ends up 6th. That'll be for Hyper Racing, of course. The one I've kept on forgetting throughout all of this. GRM Bandit gets 7th, and John Wandering takes 8th. Just see if we can get an interview with the race winner on this occasion, Arama. New feature that we've got lined up for you here. I'll just get this set up real quick. Again, our apologies that we can't really put anything on the screen in the background, but this was just a little feature that I've noticed from another channel. Half the race gone. So we'll be getting Arama in here shortly. Okay, we have Arama here in the party. If you could just quickly check to make sure your voice share settings are on before we start, that'd be useful. Just,
yeah, it's on, I think.
Hold on, just gonna quickly check the stream. I don't actually... No, hold on.
Wait, you can't... No, the stream can't hear me?
No, I don't think so.
Oh shit.
Yeah, so you're just gonna have to put your voice share settings on or something. Maybe turn up your mic settings as well. I think it's in party settings. And it says allow your voice to be shared. I think it's under that.
Yeah. No, it's always.
Yeah.
It's not on party setting.
Okay then. Is the audio okay? Stream like
yeah, I can hear.
You can. Oh, people are saying they can hear you. Okay. Well, anyway, of course, well, I'm your team manager, so first of all,
Yeah.
congratulations on that fantastic
Thank you.
win. It seemed that
So,
from all the chaos that we've been having today, it was just a case of mainly staying out of trouble, and everyone else was sort of battling with
exactly.
themselves.
Yeah.
So, was there anything in particular that you would say from that race that you would say has helped you in order to achieve this fantastic result?
Just keeping away from traffic, just being on my own. Yeah. Battle with King of Torque really, yeah, it was really hard. I actually didn't expect to get away with the King of Torque. And if King of Torque didn't spawn, I don't know, he crashed or something, he drops a few places. And if that didn't happen, I probably got P2 or something. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a very unfortunate race for quite a lot of people, but again, it was all a case of staying out of trouble and
Exactly.
going forward. Of course, the next round that we're going to will be at Blue Moon Bay, Infield A. What are your expectations for that?
I don't know, I already tried for Blue Moon Bay. I gotta practice a lot. I don't think I'm gonna get a good position there, but you never know, you know.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, thanks for having this interview, and enjoy the champagne or the milk or whatever you have, whatever
mate.
Carbon's paying for. Whatever it is, make sure that it's very expensive.
Sure, man. I'll
All
borrow
right.
all my money.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, good to chat with you, and congratulations, of course.
Thank you, thank you.
Okay, so that was our interview with the race winner, RBZ Arama. Fantastic drive from them here today, and managed to stay out of trouble, and everything just seemed to go well from there. I hope you've enjoyed the action, at least here today in DRL Super Formula. It's certainly been action-packed with sort of the wrong sort of kind of action that we don't really want to see. I'll just quickly save the replay as I've just noted. But nonetheless, it was an interesting one. So hopefully you'll be able to join us next time for Blue Moon Bay, Infield A. That's on the 10th of May. All of that rhymed, but I'm not a rapper. But I end people's whole careers, of course. So anyway, on that note, we're hearing that there's a bit of an encore going on in chat for another interview. Who shall we interview? So I'll post that there. See if there are any takers, of course. Yeah, basically everyone. I'll start with Jimmy. As he asked first, of course. Just get this set up. Okay, we have Jimmy joining with us now. If you'd just like to quickly just make sure that your voice share settings are working and such, just to be safe. Just gonna... yeah, I can hear you. It's just... Can the stream hear? Stream? just again trying to hear it on the stream. That's why there's probably a bit of echo and such. We'll start the interview. Jimmy, it's such a chaotic season. Well, not season, but round here at Monza.
Yeah. The first race, I got a bump in turn 1. Didn't really help my case at all. And then a few laps after that, I was coming into Parabolica, and there was a car pretty much parked on the apex, and that didn't help either. So a couple of pit stops for damage, and then just a recovery drive to 4th. I guess it could have been worse.
That's a fair point. You did recover well with scoring points in the end of all that, despite the adversity. Is it just a case at this point of regrouping for Blue Moon Bay, which is in a week's time?
Yeah, Blue Moon Bay are not really driven, but given last week in the DTM, I feel like confident. I could probably get some points in, I reckon. Do really well. But again, it's try to stay out of danger and get the car home.
Yep, that's definitely a thing, especially in the Super Formula stuff. It is proving to be a lot trickier than the DTM races in terms of staying out of trouble and such.
The damage too easy.
Yeah, they are quite fragile cars. Would you have thought that maybe having tuning being allowed would make the cars a bit more stable and prevent some of these incidents, or is there like another way of perhaps making this series a bit cleaner?
The car comes with a lot of understeer anyway, so I wouldn't say they're really not necessarily difficult to drive. When you start adding the tuning in and things, you do get the slidier setups, and they are quite tricky to nail. I don't know how, but I managed to kind of tune the car in on Tuesday night at the TSR race, and although that didn't go well, a couple of accidents, I certainly could have scored higher, but without the tuning, I think it's fine. It gives that aspect of understeer that makes the car more predictable.
Alright, interesting opinion there. So thanks again for having this interview here with us here on Dynamic Racing Leagues, and hope all the best for you going forward as we go towards America yet again.
No problem, thank you.
Okay, and we'll go for just one more. First time doing interviews, in case it wasn't obvious enough. It's probably really obvious. Oh, great. Hopefully, again, I'll improve over time and such. So we're just waiting. It should be GRM Bandit who will be joining us shortly. Indeed, here he is.
That worked.
Alright, so I believe your voice share settings should be set already, so...
I believe they are set.
Right.
I did random race commentaries ages ago.
Yep, that is a fair point. Way to plug out the channel on DRL, by the way. Check out Nuke Shop Motorsport on YouTube. Carbon's gonna kill me for saying that. But Bandit,
No, he won't. He'll be fine.
overall, I'd say it was a fairly strong round for you here at Monza. You picked up some very high ranking points in the end, and especially in race 1 where you managed to finish second on the road, but there was an incident with King of Torque which may be investigated, that positions might end up being swapped or something. What was your perspective on that?
It just happened so quickly, but what I think is I may have been just a little too late on the brakes, and I just misjudged and I understeered into him, and then I saw him go wide, and just because it went so quickly, I I don't know if it was me, so I just continued on. And then me and him actually talked after the race through Discord, and he didn't seem too upset. But more than likely, I will probably mention it to Carbon, just because I feel a bit bad, and I will relinquish my P2 if that's what Carbon wants to do. So.
Yeah, very gentlemanly of you, it has to be said.
Oh, thank you.
Even with a potential penalty incoming, it has to be said that you have had a really strong round here today, and they'll definitely boost yours and Nukawaso's points tally going in towards your home race in Blue Moon Bay in the States. What are you hoping for going forward? Even more solid results, or any particular practice? How are you around Blue Moon Bay?
Just for the time being, I think my main goal is to get used to the car around there, because I haven't driven the Super Formula around Blue Moon Bay yet. So what will end up happening is I'll probably take me and my teammate and we'll do some practice sessions throughout the week, and you know, just see where it goes from there. As for Blue Moon Bay, I don't really like the track too much. As you saw on DRL DTM a couple weeks ago, I actually ended up crashing while battling with 2 other drivers. So my consistency is not that great around there, so I'm worrying that I might hit a wall, and that might be a struggle for myself.
It must also be said, though, that you did end up winning the preview race of DRL DTM, which was held there, so although perhaps not a track that you particularly enjoy, as you put it, it does seem that you do tend to be better at it than quite a few other people, so that should give you a bit of confidence, I would think.
Well, I mean, you mentioned that I won the DRL preseason race there, but the 2 people ahead of me before I took P1 was Bill Fushigara and Dynamic Carbon, and they had gotten into an incident, so they got tangled up and then they had to go into the pits, so that gave me a big gap. And then I don't remember who was behind me after that, but I had like a 7-second gap, so it was just me being really lucky. I wouldn't attribute it to me being good at the track.
Oh, fair point, fair point. Well, thanks again for having the time to spare here on the DRL DTM channel, as I accidentally bring up the text box like a scrub. So,
no problem, Maps. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, hope you have a good night.
Yep, you too, bro.
Okay, 3 interviews out of the way. We'll probably leave it there for tonight, but thanks again to all of our viewers that have been tuning in here today. We're currently at 6, so I believe it was up to 8 at some point, so we've had a fair bit of viewage here and there. It's been a chaotic Monza, as one might have predicted, with the high speeds through here and the chicanes, of course, being the very high braking zones. But overall, we've got through it, and as I've mentioned, next week we'll be going to Blue Moon Bay for the Infield A course, where I believe, from rumours that I've been hearing throughout the series, that they'll be running retro liveries, or something along those lines. And we'll have to wait and see. Of course, tomorrow, tune in for DRL DTM. We'll be doing round 4 of that. That's going to be an exciting time. Of course, the DTM series, oddly enough for being touring cars, a fair bit cleaner than the Super Formula Championship from what we've seen so far. So yeah, thanks again for joining us here today on Dynamic Racing Leagues. I have been Nuke Shot Off Apple, your commentator here today, and I will see you next time, probably tomorrow. See you then, folks.